Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 104th episode of Taps and Patience. This is another very special episode where we have many of our Patreons come to join us today. I am actually on the road, so if there's any uh, recording quality issues or audio quality issues, I apologize for that. Um, but we have a pretty good little party running here. So let's start by, uh, did I say Harrison with Precision Ingenuity? I don't know.
No,
Anyway,
but that's okay.
we,
You did
we've
now.
botching our intro is just tradition at this point. Why don't we go around and everybody can introduce themselves?
Ooh, we could probably go by order on how they show up on the live stream if that's alphabetical on the
I
side there.
I don't know if it is, and I don't know if it's the same for each of us. Oh yeah, on the left side it might actually be the same. If you look at your chat bar, it starts with 5-axis medic and goes down to Quack.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm excited to hear how to actually pronounce Quack.
Yeah, let's just go straight down that list.
Okay. Mr. 5-axis medic, you're up first. You need to unmute yourself.
You need
first.
to unmute yourself, though.
and say what you actually want us to call you in the course of this show, like name-wise.
There, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Good. Okay, good. So yeah, my name's Eric. I'm with the Manufacturing Collaborative, and glad to be here.
We already did AJ's, so we can go to the next one. Freaky
Climber. Hi there. I'm James. Yep. I go by Freaky Climber, so that's who I usually am, at least online anyway. So
I'm sure there's a story there.
yeah, it dates back all the way to like 2000, 1999, right around there. So kind of had that username for most everything since then.
Got chips?
Hi, my name is Dylan. I, as of recently, go by the name of Got Chips, which also effective the 1st of January will be my LLC name. So starting off in the business venture, been in industry for a while now and a big fan as well. All the, at least the public entrepreneurs that share their experiences and have also motivated me to start this venture.
Good deal. Harris?
Hey guys, Harris, not to be confused with Harrison. I am a production engineer at a marine company, kind of startup in Rhode Island, and first job out of college. But I'm super hyped on manufacturing. We had a lot of machines at my college, so it's been my passion for the last 4 years, and I'm excited to talk with you guys because I listen to you all the time.
Sweet.
Hey, I'm Murray. My company name is Electric Instruments, and I hope to release a synthesizer one day. But I'm new to machining. I just got my Xometry test part accepted today.
Woo woo. Heck yeah. And then Quack, if we said that right.
Hello. Yes. It's actually Quoke, but
Woke.
everyone that I grew up with has been calling me Quack for years, so it sounds normal at this point. But I'm a knife maker in Phoenix. I started working for another knife maker in Phoenix, going more into the production side with CNCs. And next year I hope to get my a vertical mill, and we'll see how it goes with that.
That sounds awesome. Where did you get that name from? Is that like your last name, or does that have any significance?
Oh, that's my first name.
Oh, that's your first name? Oh,
Yeah,
it's a very unique first name.
Yeah, my parents are from Vietnam.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. We just had 2 more join in, and we're doing introductions. So by going with the alphabetical, we'll go up to EJ real quick. EJ, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's your name, EJ?
Or he might. Yeah, come on,
I
EJ.
don't think he's here yet. What about Norman?
We can get Norman, I guess. EJ will come back to you. Norman, you're up.
I missed the intro, but
This is the intro.
oh. So my name is Norman. I go by the title Dylan on online. I work for Tormont in the technical department doing a lot of forensics and technical.
Norman, your audio is very quiet and coming through garbled, by the way. I don't know if there's something
Yeah.
you can do to fix that. But I think what he said is he's Norman. He does machining stuff and is employed by a company that I like.
Yeah, Tormach Service Department, I think is what he said.
Yeah, I didn't know if he said that out loud, and I didn't want to dox him, but it's done.
Oh, fair enough.
EJ says he's eating dinner. So EJ will be back when he's done eating.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So I didn't really come prepared with any topic ideas. This is, by the way, what I'm considering our Christmas episode. Last year we had a couple people come by. Actually, I think a bunch of people. I think that was by far our biggest episode before now. But I figured it'd be fun to do with the Patreons this time. But so I think I confused Harrison earlier today over Instagram messages. I need to explain to him what's going on. So I am on the road right now on behalf of NextGen. I'm doing a Fusion on-site training for one of their customers. So
okay.
I probably shouldn't say who they are or anything, but they're doing some pretty cool stuff. And it's not like, this is a 2D pocketing operation. It's like some a lot of cool probing stuff. I think is going to be kind of the focus, along with some like workflow stuff on setting up 0 points, and they had a lot of questions about like managing tool libraries, which is very timely because I'm in the middle of rebuilding mine to fit kind of the new systems around the Tormach. So internet seems to be working though. Good job, Hotel Internet.
Yeah. I was going to say, I have some cool probing routines that you should probably only try once, or hopefully never.
What? Oh, yeah.
When I crash my probe.
you probed the table of your mill the other day with authority.
Yeah. I like that. Probed with authority.
I was very proud of my thumbnail for that episode. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. Unfortunately, it hit way too close to home. So do we? Do we want to? What was that? Who's that?
I said, hopefully the table on the 4th doesn't actually look that.
Yeah. I still got. I'm making parts on it, but there is some deviation, and it's not consistent. So I don't know if it's just settling, or how bad it actually is yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. So if anyone knows anyone who like does rebuilds or repairs on those that has experience tearing into those things and figuring and restoring them, I'd love to get put in contact with anyone that does that, so I can get an idea of how bad this actually is. But yeah,
I know at the shop that I used to work at, we had a 5-axis trunnion inside of the brother that we had, and somebody ran an end mill into it laterally instead of like vertically, and that thing has never been the same. It's been out for 2 rebuilds, and it, like, when it rotates, it actually twists, so it like rotates on a curve. So that might be one of those things that might not ever get out. Hopefully they can get it out though. I know that they did make it a lot better than what it was originally, but
yeah,
that's a rough one. So.
Yeah, it's probably never going to be the same, but if I could get a big improvement, if I could get it up to 80% of what it was or better, then I'd be much happier. So right now I'm seeing deviations of up to 3,000, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So, Before I was a thou or better, so that's like a 300% decrease in accuracy.
Do you have your UMC yet?
No, I think that's supposed to show up tentatively second week in January. But I don't know for sure. I don't have confirmation on that yet. My local factory outlet, our contact was actually in California last week or this week. I'm not sure if it was last week or I think it was last week. We talked to him. He's actually out there right now, and he's gonna try to get them going on it. They closed down for 2 weeks, and so for Christmas, and so they're kind of slowing down. They might be closed actually this week, and it's either this week and next week, or it's next week and then the week after. It might be from Christmas to New Year's. So,
Does that do anything to your Section 179?
to my what?
Your
Oh, for
are
taxes?
you using Section 179 for taxes?
I don't know the tax code well enough to know what Section 179 is, if I'm honest, because we have a tax guy that takes care of all that stuff. But I believe we've already made the down payment for this year, so I believe it still falls under this year, because we put the purchase order in and we've put the down payment in, but we won't receive it until next year. This is what happened last time with our other machine, our VF, and that one counted for the purchase year, not the year it was received,
Okay.
I believe.
For Section 179, I think you have to have the machine in your facility.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they do it. We're an LLC, and I have a guy who's been doing it for years for a lot of businesses in the area, and he just takes care of it. So
And
we just give him all the
actually,
paperwork.
to be fair, it at the rate you're growing, you may want more tax breaks next year than this year. So
Yeah. Regardless, it's gonna happen. We already have another machine for this year, anyways. We got the Doosan this year. We bought it and received it this year, so I don't need two machines on the same year. So having that one for next year would be good, anyways. So, speaking of which, the Doosan on Wednesday gets its new spindle put in, so that'll be nice. Looking forward to that. I've had way too many machine problems here recently. This is not fun.
did you have to pay for all of it?
No, insurance is covering it. We had to
that's
meet our
right.
deductible, but after that, insurance is covering it. So, because of that, we're not returning the spindle. We're going to hang on to it because
Okay,
we would get 20% credit back, but we're going to hang on to it, and we might try to rebuild it ourselves or send it off to be rebuilt when we recoup some cash, just to have an extra on hand in case anything else happens.
That's smart. I mean, really, you could even probably like sell it on eBay or something.
Yeah, Next Insurance for those that were asking. I have Next Insurance, and we're actually in the middle of, I think, changing insurances beginning next year, because Next Insurance doesn't have won't insure high enough for all the equipment that we now have. They were fine in the beginning, but we're growing out of a point where they will cover everything that we have, so we're having to switch.
So going to the Patreons here, can we do some kind of general survey work? How many of you right now are or own your own shop, job shop, or making your own products? So we have 4 of us or so.
Technically do.
Freaky Climber, that was you. You said you technically do.
Technically, yeah, we're in the process of getting all that taken care of here. So
Remind me.
We're not making anything yet,
Okay.
but we've got things in motion. They're like full motion right now. So
Remind me of your name again. I'm sorry, I'm all mixed up with everybody here.
James.
Freaky
okay. Climber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good deal.
How many people are involved in some sort of machining education?
I
I am.
was.
Are you officially done with that, Harrison?
Tomorrow is my last day.
Okay.
But I am gonna go in because they didn't finish all their projects for this year, so I'm gonna try to go in next semester for a couple days and finish everyone up. So, and then I have no idea what they're gonna do after that because I don't think they have anyone else lined up. So, we'll see.
I was the recipient of a bit of machining education, but nothing super formal.
Mm-hmm. What else you got for surveys, AJ?
I don't know. That was basically it.
Oh, I got
Oh.
one. How many of you guys here that are running machines and programming machines are using Fusion, and how many are using something else?
But who's not using Fusion is the question.
Oh, that might be a better way to put it.
Running Mastercam right now.
Ooh,
Okay.
one Mastercam.
I'm in the process of switching, so we'll see how that goes.
From Fusion to Mastercam?
From Fusion to almost anything else. Aspire is the only one I'm really looking at right now, but still primarily using Fusion until that happens.
Is there a reason you want to get away from Fusion?
Yeah, it's going to be all the compliance stuff, so the ITAR, CMMC, all that jazz. It's just we found a workaround for Fusion, but I don't really want to do workarounds with government jobs.
Makes sense.
They promised it's coming.
Is your workaround opening it offline?
Yeah, basically working offline and then exporting it instead of saving it, and it's just such a nightmare. And yeah, all I need is one programmer to accidentally push save, and now I'm screwed.
Yeah, I know a couple people who've tried doing that. Never really works well.
Yeah, and just seeing what CAM software is out there is an experience in and of itself.
Does anyone here have any experience with SolidCam? I believe that's what Titans of CNC was pushing whenever I went down their facility. That kind of it partners with SolidWorks pretty well. It looked interesting.
Yeah, I reached out to them, but Aspire is the only one that's come back so far. So I'm still waiting to hear back.
Is that Aspire or Esprit? I'm sorry.
One or the other. I don't know how to say it.
Aspire
Okay.
is for CNC routers. Esprit
I've
is.
heard Esprit a few. But sorry.
Anyone uses NX or something like that?
Yeah, I started with NX at a company and then basically got trained up and then never used it.
Heard it's a nightmare. Like the actual learning curve is super steep.
Yeah, the learning curve was rough, and they also had it super automated. So basically, you just sit there and watch it, and then you babysit it. So they had all the automation set up, so it was pretty cool to see. But yeah, learning it from scratch is an absolute nightmare.
That's one that I would consider learning. I was walking down the hallway at school the other day, and I saw the Mastercam class going on. It's like, I wonder if I can just sit in the back of that so I can at least have some experience in something other than Fusion. But really, from what I know of them so far, the only one I would consider is probably NX. But
That
Fair
one of the
enough.
shops I used to work at, they also had Gibbs Cam for the lathes.
I've heard that Gibbs does really well with lathes. Not as much for mills, but I guess they have it pretty dialed for any turning work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard
So
Gibbs Cam is a little bit of a different animal. I know Esprit itself is definitely a whole nother realm. Because we used to use Esprit for the wires that we had, and then everybody else programmed with Mastercam. So
Yeah, we're looking at using it for both the 5-axis and for the wire. So looks like it might work out okay, but we'll see.
That a big barrier to entry to these higher tier programs or CAD CAM programs is probably the lack of content out there. Fusion has so much content, and everybody in industry that is recently starting an industry or even that have time in it have migrated over to Fusion just because of the user friendliness. I want to think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
The
because
price
they have
doesn't
kind
hurt
of-
either.
Oh. What was that, AJ?
I was gonna say they also do things like free trials that last forever while you're in school, and so that way you learn it when you're in school, and then you get out in the real world, and you're like, well, I might as well just keep doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of like the whole Haas thing, because like it seems like Haas is in more education centers than anything else, and so is Haas popular because it's the cheap machine, or is it popular because everyone knows it because that's what everyone's been trained on, so that's what they all default to.
Yep.
So
I think
Fusion kind of is
also
like that.
Fusion also, I believe they have still the hobby license, so you get it for free. Basically everything you get in the paid version, but you can't really post tool changes.
Mhm.
But and your rapids are also replaced with the cutting fee rate, so you can't really wrap it over to another spot. You're gonna be running super slow. But somebody that's just doing like prototype work that has all the time in the world to swap tools manually or have multiple programs posted, or a little get by is post all your programs and then do something like Visual Studio Code and merge them all together and a lot of you know hands-on work to put all the M6s in place and stuff like that, but still doable.
Mm-hmm. So AJ, do we want to get into what's happened this week a little bit, or do we want to
Yeah, let's go
do
for
something
it.
different?
I'll let you start.
Okay. Let's see here. Last time I had the spindle crash with the probe, and I'm trying to think of what happened since then. The best medicine, I will say this, the best medicine for anyone who has a major crash like that is to get back up and start making parts again. Because the worst thing that happened was that crash was on a Friday, and I had to sit and think about it for basically all weekend. I did get in on Sunday, but from Friday night till Sunday morning, I didn't make it to the shop, and then all Sunday was just spent trying to get everything kind of reset up, and then when I started making parts on Monday and Tuesday again, like that's when the lump kind of started to subside a little bit, and I was able to kind of start relaxing and breathing and not feeling like I was going to throw up every time I thought about it. So, so that was kind of good. We got a lot of work done last week, and we had a really productive day today as well. Thankfully, nothing major beyond all that. Just been a nose to the grinding stone, trying to get caught back up, and trying to work with a couple local shops to try to help us get caught back up. So that's kind of nice. I was over at one of them today trying to help them get some stuff programmed, and they're really efficient on the lathe side, but I was helping them with some mill parts, and I realized how much more efficient we were on the mill side compared to them. It's kind of funny being a backseat driver watching someone else use their machine, which I realize you're going to be slower anytime you have someone else there looking over your shoulder regardless. But there was a couple times it was just like, okay, like I'm really far behind. Like, can you just move and I'll do it? But at the same time, I'm so thankful that they're helping us out because they'll help us get caught back up. So it's also cool to kind of see other people's approaches to the same problem. They do everything on the machine with maze control, which is a completely different way of programming and setting stuff up. And in some ways, it can be faster. In some ways, it can be slower. It's different, and it gives you you have different levers that you can pull, and it's just always fun to kind of learn from what they're doing and going, okay, is there anything that they're doing that I can learn from that I can apply that'll speed me up? Because there's, regardless of how fast or slow a different shop is, there's almost always a nugget of knowledge that you can find that you can apply that'll help you out. And so you always got to keep your eyes peeled for that kind of stuff. I feel like whenever you go into other shops, like there might be just that one thing that's like, okay, that's a problem that's been bugging me forever, and just seeing how they're dealing with that one specific problem is like changed my world. So that was fun.
So I was finishing up those hard milled parts, and I did eventually get them done. I think I shipped them on Thursday, maybe Friday. Um, the Op2, well, first I realized I made a big mistake in not doing an Op1 and an Op2 at the same time on the machine, because when I started running the Op2s, like the first part went great, no problems at all. And then the second part warped like crazy, and the third part warped like crazy. And I lost both of those parts. So after that, I took the remaining Op1s I had to the school, and I used their surface grinder. And using their surface grinder, I was able to grind off the majority of that material and kind of flip back and forth a couple times. So I was able to get that kind of hat removed with them staying fairly flat. And then also while I was there, to replace the parts that I had lost, I took my pre-existing blanks and surface ground those straight to thickness. And then I was just able to pop in the features. So I spent a long time on that grinder at school. I was probably there for like 6 hours on a manual grinder, just cranking wheels. But I was able to get it done. In retrospect, if I had to do these parts again, I could definitely do them in like a tenth of the time. I would just mill them soft. I would leave like 20 thou of material, harden them, and then grind off the rest. It would be super quick and easy now that I know how to do it. But I struggled a little bit on this one. Yes.
That YouTube video was so dark.
I know. I know what I'm doing when I'm editing things. Like I could have edited to be like, look at this fun challenge that I faced. But I mean, sometimes the reality of being in the shop is sometimes things aren't all chipper and happy and good times. So I deliberately edited that one to be darker and kind of sadder and to show the struggle. But I'm very glad that those shops are gone, or those jobs are gone. Those parts are gone. If you watch that video very carefully, I have a subtle change in the color balance throughout the entire video. And so it starts off like with full contrast and full saturation, and it slowly gets more desaturated as it goes. Just a little peek behind the curtain here. But those are gone.
I reached out to you and everything, like, "Hey, man, are you all right?"
I got a lot of messages like that. I may have gone too far in that one. No, I mean, I was like, that was an accurate representation. I was super frustrated. I just wanted to be done with those parts. They were a waste of time. I was angry at them. I think that's one of the only parts that I have ever thrown across the shop is when the second one of those warped on the Op2. But they're done now, so they're gone. I will never see those again. I'm probably not going to do any other jobs for the rest of the year. I have this class that I'm teaching now. I have some like video stuff that I'm going to work on. I have some process improvement stuff, but I don't really need the money right now. But I need the time to kind of invest back into the shop and actually pay attention to my family. So I think I'm done making parts for the year, at least job shop parts. I have some parts that I want to make for videos and some like fixtures and stuff. But in terms of job shop, I think I'm taking a break.
So I'm sure he's probably going to give you a repeat of that job in 2 weeks.
I could do it now.
If possible, I would like to ask a question related to the the guys that are here, if you gain full independence, how did you decide to take that leap, and how have you maintained full independence rather than just 6 months into the venture just be like, oh well, I'll go back to a day job or whatever.
I'll start.
Fierce stubbornness.
Yeah. I was going to start what everyone else is thinking here. So the way I did it is I was able to go part-time at the job that at the time was my full-time job. And I kind of just slowly tapered off over like 6 months. So like the first couple months I worked 30 hours a week for him, then I went to 20 hours a week, and then I went to 10 hours a week. And that was huge in making that transition. Cold turkey is definitely the most difficult way to do it. I would recommend at least a part-time job. Like if you can go find yourself a teaching job, that would be awesome.
That was agreed between you and your boss, manager, owner of the company?
Yes. He was a super nice guy. He's still a friend of mine.
It all depends on your relationship with your boss, because whenever I quit and went, there was no way I was going to do any part-time anything. Like as soon as I was heading for the door, they were like, don't let it hit you on the way out, or do, type people. I mean, they're good guys. The owner of the company was a nice enough guy, but he was also the type of guy that if he was getting rid of a whole bunch of toolboxes, he would cut them up into little tiny pieces so his employees wouldn't take them and try to start their own business. So he was a very cautious individual as well. But for me, I was ignorant enough to think it was going to be easy, and stubborn enough to not give up. So I just quit cold turkey and just kept telling myself, this is going to be easy. And I still tell myself that, and I'm still going, but it's never is. So, but I have a lot of family who's helped me. I started it with a partner, which I think makes it a lot easier, because you can suffer together rather than suffer in silence. So kind of share that burden. And then I started in my dad's garage, and then I just had a lot of family who, whenever we like bought the shop and moved over, they put in a lot of time and effort to help us out. So I have a big support system around me, in addition to just fierce determination and not give up. And in the beginning, my family was not super supportive. They thought I was a crazy person. And it wasn't until we started to get some amount of success that they all started coming around and going, this was the best idea ever. But I kind of had to prove it to them first, which took probably a year and a half to 2 to get to a point where they were like, okay, you're not throwing your life away. There is something here. And so then that kind of rallied the support.
You guys had already formal engineering education or machinist education, correct? Like college or something?
Engineering, yes.
Yeah. Same for me. Engineering, yes. Machining, no.
When I quit my job, the only part I'd ever machined was the Titan 1M part, and I failed. So.
Okay, I did have more machining experience than that.
Did you just get a bunch of chatter, or broke a treadmill or a tap?
I mean, it took me 3 or 4 tries to make it.
Okay.
And so I finally made it, and it was a learning experience. And then I did actually. The second part I did actually, I think, was the second or third part was the Xometry part, and that one, it was early enough on where Xometry was a lot more lenient than they are today, and I think my part had 1 or 2 features that were out of spec by like 10% ish range, 5 to 10% range, and they were like, it's borderline, but we'll give it to you, and so that's how I got in.
Okay, so please don't have nightmares after I show you this, but this is my 1M. It's actually not the greatest thing, but for a 440, I couldn't really ask for much.
Yeah. My
Very
the
much.
type the one in part that I did, I ended up breaking an end mill on it, and my dad took the crate that our Tormach 1100 came in and made a table or bench top for it, and we epoxied in that end mill that broke, making the Titan one in part, and we signed and dated it. So
That's super cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of coming at it a little different. I wanted to start my own shop and decided to go to school first because I spent 20 years in my last career and I didn't want to kind of start a new career with absolutely no knowledge. So I ended up going to school and I only wanted to do 2 years, but now I'm here 4 years later. So and now we'll start in the shop here in probably the next 3 to 5 years realistically. But yeah, kind of coming at it from a different way of getting the education, then figuring out the machining side.
I personally just took the plunge. I was trying to get partnered with Xometry with the 440, and I know you guys have had guests like James Servin that have been successful um, with the 440, and then grew from there. They scaled their business, uh, but for me, I was having a hard time. I don't have a tool changer on the machine. I was just dumping money into it, bought the Saunders fixture plate, uh, off biases and everything, thinking that work holding would make my life easier, and put together a DIY flood coolant system for it and everything. And it was better, but it still wasn't to the point where the new Geometry test part uh, was coming out how I wanted it to come out. And that could also be a lack of education. I don't have any formal education. I what I know is through resources, online resources such as AJ with his YouTube videos and all the podcasts and whatever opinion is out there of him of Typeville CNC. There is still some uh, knowledge that can be gained from those resources. So I tried with the 440 and frustrated about it. One day I went out to eat with my dad and I was venting to him about the whole situation, and he basically just backed me up financially to purchase a new machine, and initially was gonna go with a brand new machine, and then went the other route to buying a used robo drill. And yeah, I also did get partner with Sometry. Today I had my onboarding call, so we'll see how it goes from here.
To be fair, having seen your 440 part, you didn't do anything wrong. Like I think that 440 part was as good as you could get off of a 440, and I just don't know if you could even pass the new test part on a 440. I think things have moved on since Cerven, where like because the new test part has a ton of like pretty high surface finish requirements, and I don't know if you can do that without a nicer spindle than what the 440 has. You could do it on an 1100 for sure, but with those long stick out tools with like a 32 RA or whatever it is, I don't know. It would be tough.
Yeah, so at least all the sidewalls are 125, and I believe the radius, but on the sloped surface, I believe it's a 32 RA, and the top of the part is a 12 or a 16 RA.
I currently don't take any
Mm-hmm.
parts that have tighter than a 64 RA, so I could probably do it on the new mill, but my old Haas wouldn't have done it. Or I still have it. That makes it sound like it's gone. My current Haas, with my spindle issues, until I get that spindle rebuilt, it can't handle tighter than 64 RA.
If you're not taking any work till the end of the year, AJ, do you think you have time to go send it in and get it fixed, or try to tear it apart and fix it? If you're not going to be doing anything with it,
This probably would be a good time. Yeah.
You
I
think
should
that
also mention.
the lead times now with the holidays would also put that machine out of commission for the new year? Because a lot of people are gonna go on vacation for the holidays. So even if you send it now, you might not get it until the end of January or beginning of February.
That's fair. Though it hasn't been running as much for sure now that I have the 1500. I've done a couple jobs on it, simple small plastic parts, and it's handy for that. But until I get that spindle rebuilt, it's mostly just kind of a spare spindle that I have laying around.
So yeah, I'd say now would be as good a time as any to get it out there, especially because you have a second spindle now. I should also mention that I did build up a nest egg before I quit cold turkey. So I did have some cash saved up, enough for 6 months to a year, which is basically what I lived off of. Because I think in my first year, I only made about $3,000 for a whole year, which is not much. Like that I was able to take home out of the business. Like the business made more than $3,000, but like the amount of money that I took out of the business was only about $3,000.
I too had a bunch of money saved up from the sale of my house down in Indy. Well, we don't need to go to the backstory, but when we moved up here, the house up here was a much better deal than the one we had down there because of COVID and prices. Don't worry about that. So I had a bunch of money saved up, and then I blew it all trying to get Design the Everything to work. And with Audacity Micro, I was starting with basically nothing in my bank account. Like I had gone through all of it with Design the Everything, and by my math, I had a month left to make Audacity Micro work. So it was my Hail Mary to stay self-employed. And it worked.
Yeah, and we got down to the wire too. We got down to probably about a month of cash left before we basically had to go start waiting tables at the local McDonald's or something.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I personally have. I know a lot of people, recommend not to do it, but I've just done it with a bunch of debt, playing around with other people's money.
That brings its own level of scarcity or scares. I will say that we avoided major debt until we had something that we could actually say, okay, this is going somewhere. I'm comfortable taking this risk and getting a bigger machine. And that's kind of when we got our VF with the 5 axes. At that point, we had proven ourselves, and we were like, okay, if we keep growing at this rate, we can afford to take this risk. Because even if our growth rate doesn't go up any higher, and it ends up like going down to what we just did this last year, we'll still be okay. We might be eating the beans and rice, but we'll be okay. So
my philosophy has always been. Oh, go on.
Go ahead, AJ.
No.
Okay, so I'm getting started here. I'm still working a full-time job. I've been in the industry for like over 13 years now, primarily as a lathe machinist. And for about the last, 2-3 years or so, I've been contemplating trying to start my own thing and do my own thing. And at the beginning of this year, I kind of made a decision, like I'm going to start putting things in place to try and start a shop of my own here in the garage, right? So things still aren't running yet, but I have things like the machine's being delivered 2 days after Christmas. So I have a lathe, it's on the way. Unfortunately, it comes with an 18-foot bar feeder. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. But I have a machine, it's on the way. We kind of had like a little wad of money when I lost my job earlier this year, and kind of didn't have necessarily the finances to make the machine possible. So we pulled out a personal loan, and I've kind of pulled myself into a little bit of debt here. But it's nothing that I can't necessarily pay for with my full-time job. And as long as my employer doesn't have some problem with me doing it, which unfortunately they kind of, I don't want them to know, which kind of makes this like a little like iffy. But as long as I keep a full-time job, I should be able to at least pay for the machine and everything that's coming in right now, and not have to worry about paying things. So
Let's hope your boss doesn't listen to this podcast.
or one of the fellow employees that I have at work, yeah, which I don't think they do, but you never know who's listening, you never know who's
Which
watching. So
which machine are you getting? If you don't mind the question.
I have a 2011 Doosan 220, Lynx 220 on the way.
That's a 2-axis, 3-axis, live tooling.
It's a 2-axis lathe. It does have parts catcher and a tailstock. It comes with a 6-inch chuck.
Cool.
Yeah. Just basic lathe, man. Nothing fancy. I know I've got a couple buddies who have parts currently that they're trying to like figure out if they can get made or that they want made, and so most of their work is just the 2-axis lathe. So nothing super fancy, nothing crazy.
So what are your plans for that machine? Are you planning on partnering with Xometry as well to guarantee at least some work, or are you just betting on your friends and local network?
So I do plan on actually going and talking to Xometry. I actually already tried like signing up with Xometry, and for some reason there was some sort of issue, and I haven't been able to do that. I talked to them at IMTS, and they told me that when I was ready, just contact them, and they'd kind of help me walk through things and go through things and try and figure out what went wrong when I tried to sign up. So I need to get a hold of them really and go through and figure out what happened. It stopped me somewhere in the process and wouldn't let me log on or wouldn't let me do something. So I fought with it for a little bit and kind of gave up, and then went out to IMTS. That's when I talked to them about it.
I had some issues personally as well with the work center. As I did fail my initial attempt at partnering with them and had to wait the 6 months to reapply for the partnership. And there was an issue with one of the parts still showing as pending, even though I had submitted 6 months ago. So it wouldn't let me reapply, and I had to reach out to them. AJ has heard me ramble about this, um, but they do seem to have some technical difficulties at the moment with their website, and communication at the moment seems to be a little bit delayed. I did do the onboarding process today, as I mentioned earlier, and it seems like a lot of people are uh, partnering with Xometry or trying to at least. Um, I don't know if it's, a lot of shops are saying that they're slowing down. Others are, oh, we're busier than ever. At my day job, we're swamped right now. A lot of parts. I work for a round tool manufacturer, carbide round tool manufacturer, and we're just nonstop work for, I want to say, at least the next 4 months at minimum with back orders. It's not even stock inventory. It's just back orders. But yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to them.
You're gonna say
Yeah.
sorry about the.
I know when I talk to them, because it's just a simple 2-axis lathe, like I don't have a mill readily available to me. So I know I talked to them a lot about, how much 2-axis
But
lathe specific parts might they have, So that's
you
one
just
thing that's
apply
kind of
for
worried me about.
your capabilities. That's one thing I personally, I guess to an extent, even though I haven't jumped on the job board, can see appealing for Xometry is that the job is only tailored to your capabilities. So right now I only have one spindle. That would be the robo drill. So all the work that I take on is, not gonna be 5 axis work. It'll be 3 axis or, I have to do a couple of setups to get the job done. But you only pick what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say with starting a shop, I kind of fell into a unique situation where I've started at a startup, so they've already bought the equipment, they've already funded all of that, and now I'm building the systems needed to like actually have a shop. So I kind of was like, well, I guess I'll stay here for a few years and work all the troubles you guys run into when you first start. I'm currently going through that, but with somebody else's money and time, which is pretty handy. Um, but yeah,
And don't be shy about it, 5 axis medic. We all know here that you're running that DMU, man. You're
yeah,
spoiled
yeah.
right now.
Yeah, very spoiled, very spoiled. And this last week has been a nightmare, though, as you all know.
I don't.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story. Mind
Yeah,
sharing?
yeah. So basically, I'm kind of like AJ, where I do a lot of micro stuff. Most of my stock is, inch and a half or less. And then the customer came forward and said, "Hey, I need a big chunk." So I think it was the stock was like 11-inch round, like 6, 7 inches tall. And I needed 4, 5 inch length of cut. And so we ordered a ISCAR tool with an insert mill, and we're like, oh yeah, we have extra length, everything would be great. And programmed everything, started to run it. I had to have it was 7 inches of stick out. So again, haven't used those tools that are that long. Half-inch tool, I normally run at 20K. So I put it at 20K, and it did the tool change and immediately disappeared. Um, so it sounded like a gunshot went off, and was like, "Oh, this is not great." And the extension plus the mill itself was probably right around $1,000. So blowing up $1,000 in a matter of a second was not great. Fortunately, I called Ishkar, chit chatted with them. Their tech was awesome, and he was like, first off, that's awesome. He's like, that's cool when you can do that stuff. There is no max RPM rating on those tools, so he said it most likely was a faulty tool. So they're working on the warranty stuff now. But to take $1,000 tool and just vaporize it, new experience. So fortunately, with the school, we have a bunch of random end mills everywhere, and I was able to scrounge together a bunch of end mills, and I actually got the part out, and put some nice surface finishes on it. Everything I'm comfortable with. It was beautiful. It was just that long length of cut that was a nightmare.
Did you check run out on it at all before you ran it up to 20K?
So I had it in a hydraulic, and it seemed fine. And I'm wondering if it isn't just the acceleration so fast that the top of the tool sped up and the bottom didn't. So it kind of had like a whip in action, or if it actually had like a crack in the carbide, because it's like a 7-inch long carbide shaft, so it's possible that it had a defect. But yeah, just good to know that if your tool's sticking out that long, go slow.
And you said it was a half-inch diameter tool,
Yeah, yeah, half
so
inch,
it's like 14 times D.
something like that. Yeah, something minor.
Yeah, I think the
Even if
longest
they're going to
ticket.
replace it, it's still cooler if it's not your money.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it was like I had to have stock was late, and the tool, blowing up was not great. So from the time of like starting the actual program to the time it was delivered was 3 days. And my typical turnaround is about 2 weeks. So to do a 3-day turnaround is pretty rough. So
Did it scar your machine in any way?
Not that I've found. There's a little bit of paint here and there that's missing, but nothing that's like I didn't shatter my window. That would have been
Yeah.
bad.
That's good.
Was it an inserted tool or a solid carbide?
So it's a solid carbide that has like a screw in the bottom, so you just have the extension plus I think it was like a 5/8 length of cut end mill, so super small. I just needed the reach, and again, like, there's nothing anywhere saying, hey, don't go above 10K or whatever it is. So I think next time when I'm going to be using, I'll just do a step up process for 5K, 10K, 15K, and I'll probably leave it at 15K. But it'll be interesting if they let me try it to 20K again.
The longest
Hopefully
end
you're
mill
still
that
there.
I've ever, yeah, the longest end mill that I did was one where I had a quarter inch, no, an eighth inch end mill from helical, and it was like a 10 times D stick out, but I stuck it out 28 times D because the customer had a slot, and the way they had their slot, they had a slot, and then they had an opening, and then they had another slot, so they were sticking like a pin in it. And I asked them, I was like, does this have to be a flat bottom on that back side? And they said yes, and I was like, I hate you. And so I ended up doing that, but I think I ran that one, even with it being an eighth inch, I think I ran it at like 2,000 RPM in aluminum or something, just really slow, and then like tenths on the. It took like 10 minutes to cut, and it shattered decent, but the finish was good for what it was, but it was not fun.
Yeah, that same customer reached out today because they got another rework they want me to do. It's a 6 inch deep chamfer, and they want me to go down the bottom and just clean up the bottom of the chamfer, and it's magnesium, so it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Speaking
that
of
sounds like an expensive problem about to happen.
Yeah, yeah, we'll go slow with it. We'll be fine.
speaking of batter and runout, learning from AJ here. How do you guys feel about reamers? I've had a really tough time with reamers on a part I ran recently.
In stainless and aluminum, I do okay
Uh,
with reamers, but I did steel once, and it oversized it no matter what I did. Really bad. It was really frustrating.
I have
what was your
very
runout?
little.
I've always found reamers.
Like I said, I've only done reamers with stainless, and have had great success with it. So
I think I've only
Do you
used them
guys
with
check your
brass, and it's
runout?
easy.
I don't typically check runout unless I'm doing like micro mills. So if I have like a 20 thou mill or something like that, then I'll do runout. But on the bigger stuff, I don't usually worry about it.
Are you using like high end uh tool holders?
So I got
Or
a
are we
couple
talking about
ER,
cause?
yeah, I got a couple ER collets that are decent, and then a bunch of hydraulics, and those hydraulics I use from like my core tools, so that way I can quick change them. Uh, but yeah, unless I'm doing micro machining, I don't really worry about runout. Unless the part's like no matter what I do, it's not right. Then I might start going down that path, but usually I don't.
Yeah, so far in my experience, I dislike reamers with a passion. I tried two different sizes for aluminum 6061 part I made for a customer, and I'm using Haas tool holders BT30 with I think I probably was using an ER16. So I don't know how you guys feel about this as well. So the ER16s that I have, they have a collapsing diameter of 1 millimeter. So that is a long way, right? Typically for what ER colleagues collapse. But I don't have it's an oddball size because the reamer's quarter inch, but then the shank is whatever, like 239 or something, some crazy number. Um, so I use this collapsible ER16, and then I checked the run out, and it was really like 3,000. I'm like, it doesn't really seem very appealing. I tried tapping it in, didn't really work. So I'm like, send it. And I programmed it to, I believe, 400 SFM and like 1 thou IPT. And that thing, using flood cooling on the robo drill, shattered like crazy, and it made the holes like 3 thou oversized as well, or somewhere around that area.
Was it a carbide reamer or a high speed steel? And how long was
High
it?
high speed steel. So this was from McMaster. Um, so it's 6 inches overall, but I was only going down like a quarter inch. So yeah, that length, because I can't fit 6 inches into a ER16 tool holder. I fit like 2 inches max. So I have 4 inches sticking out.
Okay.
So I,
That
I don't know if it was the fault of the run out or just my, feeds and speeds.
how much did you pre-drill it? So in my experience, the best luck I've had with reamers, I've actually had better luck with high-speed steel than carbide, and better luck with longer reamers instead of shorters, because they're able to kind of follow the hole. And then in aluminum, typically I feel like you need to be a lot higher, a lower SFM but higher feed per tooth, because otherwise you're going to basically drill it out instead of ream it. And so you really need to be dropping down while going slow just to open it up, rather than because if you're going too fast and you have too light of a load, you're basically treating it like a drill, and you're going to open it up. And so I think Titan USA tools, I think I've gotten a lot of their reamers, and they have on their chart, I want to say it's something like 10 thou or 15 thou, depending on your diameter, but of like around a half inch to a quarter inch size. I think it was a 15 thou feed per tooth at like 200 SFM in aluminum, 200 to 300, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I usually
I'll have to try it.
I usually drop the service foot in half and then double the feed per tooth. That seems to work well.
Yeah, that's like the long-standing rule of thumb is half the speed, twice the feed. Though it's not. Be careful on reamers. It's not feed per tooth. It's feed per revolution. Because they have a whole bunch of
Right,
teeth.
that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it
So
was
my
15
post
thou
doesn't
feed per
support it.
rev. Now that you mention it, that makes more sense than feed per tooth. Feed per
At
rev
least
is
the stock or the post processor that Fusion 360 has for the RoboDrill, which is not for my particular model, does not support the feed per revolution. So it changes it to inch. What is it? I think it's length over time, or something crazy like that.
You can still program it in Fusion in whatever you want. Like it'll give you that
And
list
it'll
of like
change it.
12 different feeds and speeds. You can just type in whatever you want into whatever box and it'll do the math for you.
Okay, I'll definitely have to try that because yeah, it was not fun and scrapping parts, and I'm like on a deadline trying to get these parts to the customer, and then I just ended up basically interpolating it with an end mill, with a 6 millimeter end mill, but having to rerun the 2D contour like 5 times because with thermal expansion and contraction, it was undersized, and then run it again. Okay, it's closer. Run it one more time. You can just hear it like barely cutting. But Harrison, to your question, I also only left like maybe 2,000s. That would be 1 thou per side for the reamer to go in, and it still just drug a chip all over the walls or something. It left a horrible finish, but that makes sense because I was just not feeding it hard enough.
And spinning way too fast, which
Yeah.
is going to make heat and make things sticky.
Yeah. I think
Especially
reamers
aluminum.
want. Yeah, I think reamers want about 2 to 5%, or 2 to 4% of the diameter, which in this case is going to be around 5 thou or 5 to 10 thou. at quarter inch, I think. If I did my math right, total. Not so per side, it's about 2.5 thou.
Can we take a quick time out here? We have a new person who has joined us. Their Discord name is Christian. If you want to introduce yourself, you can do it now, or if you want to wait a couple of minutes and think about what you're going to say, that's fine too. But hi.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, just fine.
Yeah, sorry I joined late. I couldn't earlier. Don't have too much of an introduction. I'm just a hobbyist. I've been following your show for a while, and yeah, thought I'd drop in, see what's what. So
Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Well, thanks for joining us. And the rule is come at any time, leave at any time. Like, I don't know, we'll probably be here for a while. We don't expect everybody to be here for the full length. We expect people to come and go as they wish. I think EJ is still eating, so you're fine.
Okay, yeah, great. I might have some questions later about your 1500.
Okay, yeah, that's
But
fine.
aside from that, I'll just lurk and listen in.
Contribute as much or as little as you want. It is perfectly fine.
Cool. Well, I'll have
Might
one
be able to
coming
answer
next.
some of your questions too.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying I might be able to answer your questions too.
Yeah, we got Foot Pedal Jones here who works over at Tormach. He Norm, he can answer a lot
Norman.
of the Tormach questions.
Yeah. I watch all you guys' videos. I actually have one of them coming next week.
Nice.
I think 2 days after Christmas. So yeah, I don't know. You guys' videos have been quite helpful and probably shifted me a little bit. So thanks.
Did you send me a message on
You sparked
Instagram?
my.
I did not. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
just, I told Davey that, I don't know. Aside from his help, and he assisted me over months as I was struggling through various issues with the place the machine is going to go to now, and delivery and everything. They actually arranged like delivery for me, including a crew to unload it and stuff with a forklift.
Awesome.
But yeah, anyway. So no questions that haven't already been answered in the videos, but maybe some beyond that, like how things are going with yours and stuff, and if there are any gotchas, any other stuff I should probably look out for when the machine gets here and stuff like that.
I mean, I still haven't had any problems with mine. You have to stay on top of pushing the chips like out from underneath the little waterfall if you're doing a lot of heavy roughing. I haven't had any problems with smaller cuts and smaller chips, but when I was doing those parts that were all steel, just like whaling with a 1/2 inch end mill, the chips were heavy and they would build up, and then the waterfall would kind of run off the chips onto my floor. And then also with the hard milling, I was making tons and tons and tons of really, really, really small fine chips, and those clogged my filters fast. But really, I haven't had a single issue at all with that machine.
Okay, cool. So I may not have too many questions. I saw your hard milling video, made my heart bleed. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. But
okay,
machine
all
handled
right.
it just fine.
Yeah, I won't be doing anything super heavy with it. It's just for hobby use. So I don't think I'll have chip buildup issues anytime soon, probably.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Well, thanks. Hi again, everyone.
Hi. We had a question from Murray.
Yeah, it's really just more of a fun one. So I've listened to every episode of Taps and Patience, and I think I've picked up on a couple of quirks from you guys. So I'm curious if any other listeners have picked up on anything, but I'm going to share them for fun. So Harrison, like I think your number one quirk is you will often respond with yes and no. That's like your go-to response is yes and no. And then AJ, what I've noticed from you, I don't think you do it as much lately, to be honest. But you'll use the long and. You'll be talking and then you'll go and I like hearing that. It's reassuring. I don't know have you tried to cut back on that?
When we first started, I was paying a little bit more attention to filler words, and I probably improved a little bit just from practice. But no, I don't think about it anymore.
Good, don't.
No.
And so,
You should have said yes and no.
yeah.
You know what I'm still waiting for? When you guys kind of went at it about the whole hiring an employee versus purchasing a robot or something, what came to my mind is the next episode was gonna be you guys playing a round of the boxing robots, like somehow trying to see who won. That's what came to my mind when I heard that episode.
Was that my thumbnail? That may have been my thumbnail.
One of them.
It would have been a good one for that one.
So, Harrison, have your thoughts changed now that you're like super duper swamped?
A little bit. I am going to need someone. And I'm going to need automation. I'm going to need both eventually. Which one will come first? I don't know. I'm not anti-employee, for the record, but a robot, I feel like it's a lot easier to deal with, because it's just over in the corner versus having an employee. Like a robot, it's either working or it's not, or if it's a problem, I can walk away from it. With an employee, I constantly have to be directing them and telling them what to do, or I have to send them home. And it's someone's livelihood that you're responsible for at that point. And there's a whole lot of you got to restructure the business in the sense, because right now it's just me and Weston, and so we don't have to pay any kind of payroll taxes or anything like that. And so there's a lot more paperwork involved in hiring someone, and so administratively, it's going to be a lot more of a pain to do a person versus a robot. But a robot is also going to be difficult to get set up unless I hire someone to set something up like Lights Out Manufacturing, and then it's should be like the easy button of solutions. Which with this big job that we bought the new machine for, I that one's going to be automated. Period. It's not if, it's when. So.
One thing to keep in mind is that I was going to say that if you get something with a robot and there's an issue with it, you need to solve that, and that takes both the robot down and you down from doing other productive work.
I will say, Harrison,
But I mean, anytime you,
this lag is killing us. I will offer you right now, if you ever want me to like come out for a week and play employee, I'll come work for you for a week, and that way you can get used to bossing someone around and not have any long-term consequences of the trial run. So unless you're really mean.
Yeah. Oh, I will just I'll turn the screws on you. You're like, AJ, get your butt over here.
But
I feel like that would be an unfair advantage, because currently, obviously, you own Audacity Micro, so you have machining experience. Now, Harrison, in your area, what is is machining a skill, or is it not? Something popular in your area.
I would say it's still a niche on some level, and there's been a lot of shops within the last 2 years. There's been, like I've mentioned before, there's been probably four or five shops that have closed down in the area, and so I've had, half a dozen people that have showed up at my shop looking for work. But my biggest problem is that I'm not really looking for an old school machinist. I want to find someone that I can train up in the CAD CAM space, because I will say that almost every shop that I know of in the area does not use CAD CAM. They all do stuff on the machines. I don't know of any shops in the area that I've ever been to or seen that have a lot of CAD CAM experience or exposure. The shops that do have it, they'll have like one programmer for the whole shop, and like none of the other guys in the shop that are that are knocking on my door that are looking for a job are the ones that have that programming experience. and so they would just be button pushers, which there's nothing wrong with button pushers, because that's probably what I'm going to need, honestly, more than a programmer. But I would like to bring on. I would like to bring someone on that would be, that I could look at that person and be like, okay, this is a young person who has drive and ambition. I can pour my knowledge and how I want stuff done into this person, and I can raise them into a point where they will become a manager of the shop. Where if I want to step away from the business, they can take over 90% of what I need to happen in the backside of the shop. And I want to train someone up into that position rather than and I'm not necessarily against having someone who has experience in coming in and doing that, but I feel like there's going to be a lot more headaches involved in that route. So they'd have to be the right person where I felt like they can bring that experience in, but they will also listen to me rather than trying to override me.
I'm gonna say we're currently in the process of putting on 3 interns, and again, I have to train them from essentially nothing up to a machinist or programmer. So I'm actually building an entire course curriculum to like kind of speed run, I guess, a lot of this stuff to get them up to speed because I only have them for a semester or a summer, and then that way when they go out to shops like yours, they can actually program or run the machine, or at least have an idea of how to do it. And one of the struggles I'm going to run into is once I get someone trained, they graduate and they're gone. So now I got to do it all over again. So I'm trying to figure out like almost like a McDonald's approach for training. Just train them up quick, give them as much experience as possible, and then send them out. So be on the other side, sending them out to you.
I mean, that's
So, quick thought. What about a Tesla robot for the solution? It's $40,000, 30 something, and then it's done. You even if it's like somebody on the other side really operating it, because that's what they said that happened in that event. And second, uh, in regards to fifth axis issue, I guess, have you? I at least think about this all the time in my day job about putting like QR codes and have like that QR code linked to a video in YouTube where it's tailored to the actual machine where that QR code is, and you know it's a video of you showing how to operate that machine and whatever system the company actually already has in place.
I've looked into stuff like that. The issue I run into is now I gotta have someone to like make the video, put the video on, put have a QR code, and then have to then the students actually just rely on that, so they don't actually absorb it. They just go, nope, there's a video whenever I need it, so I just will do that. Um, and honestly, I just like a lot of shops, I just need flow. Like I need people coming in and people going out, and trying to get a lot of our students interested in subtractive is actually fairly difficult. Most of them are coming to us from high schools where they had a 3D printer and now they're like, I'm an engineer. And it's like, that has nothing to do with engineering. So trying a lot of the students I talk to, they're interested in design, largely because the machines are loud and it's scary. Like that, you crash a big machine, it terrifies them. So it's like I'm dealing with like almost like the hierarchy of needs. I'm actually on the lower level of just like trying to get them in the room, let alone like to get the information that I can easily give. It's just I gotta get people interested in it, and be able to turn them as fast as I can. And I also gotta feed them, so I gotta like get enough work into the shop that is 3 axis and not 5 axis. So now I can have them running the hosses. So it's a delicate like chicken and the egg kind of thing. But eventually, I will get to the point where I have videos that I can point them to. But I'm pretty far away from that right now.
so. On a related note, can we hear from some of our guys who are more on the fresher end or the hobby end that don't have like as much industry experience? Like, what challenges are you guys facing as you're first coming in and starting to learn machining? Like, what are the barriers? What are you kind of still afraid to do? Like that kind of thing.
I have a couple of responses to the last thing, but I've got my air compressor running right now. It's should be kicked off soon, and I'll jump back in.
You actually sound fine.
Finding work is the biggest barrier I can think of.
Yeah, and to the finding work thing, Xometry is obviously a big helper, but even though products is a hard space to get into, it does at the very least get you out there. And even if you don't have a successful product, sometimes having something that you can say, hey, I'm making and selling these, can sometimes reach the right person and come up with those right connections. Um, just as a something to throw out there for those that are trying to get going. Because I would like to get back into the product space at some point. Still, that's still an interest of mine. But the job shop space is blowing up so much right now that I don't have the time for it, and um, it's it's what's making the most money right now. But eventually, the goal is to get back into that product space.
I think I may have said it the last podcast that we all did, but job fairs are great. If you go to these companies that are looking for machinists, they're looking for CNC operators, but you go, hey, I have my own shop. What parts do you need? That might be a good revenue. So a lot of these people, they think they need a person because they have to have machines running. But if you can offer them a machine, they might actually be willing to cut you a deal. And it's also a unique way of fixing their problem that they otherwise wouldn't have thought of.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good idea.
I've heard of
So
companies doing the
way
same
how
thing, looking at job listings. Like they'll just go look for companies that are looking to hire a machinist and send them an email.
I got my first customer by posting on Facebook on one of the machinist groups. I just asked what other ways can I, find customers other than Sometry, and lucky for me, somebody local to me, he has his own shop as well, but he was friendly enough to forward me a job, and that's how I got my first paying customer. And it seems like it'll continue to be somewhat of a partnership, where he would continue to send me work. Um, and I, from that same post, I had another guy reach out to me. He's up north, but he said he would send me work on a commission base. Um, he sent me some pictures today of some parts he wants to get made, but I'm still waiting on dimensions and other stuff, and it's really more of a lathe job than anything else. So I'm probably not gonna. It's gonna be probably a no coat.
Well, I know someone you might be able to outsource it to. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, poke, poke. Freaky climber.
Doesn't he get his lathe soon? Like still doesn't have it, right?
Well,
Yeah, I don't think.
no, I don't have it yet. It'll be here 2 days after Christmas.
Okay. Are you gonna run it off a phase converter?
Yeah. I mean, we only got 240 or whatever 230 here at the house. So, I mean, got to run three phase. So with a phase converter, yeah.
But
What
another good,
which model
another,
you get?
I'm sorry.
Which model did you get?
I haven't gotten a phase converter yet. But I've been looking to try and figure out what my best option is going to be. Put it that way. Because there's lots of options out there. I know my original intention when I was thinking about it earlier this year was to try and get a phase perfect, the
Very
digital phase
expensive.
converter. So that was my original intention, but I mean, for me to run that, I mean, there's another $6,500, So I'm trying to figure some stuff out. I do have a three-phase motor, so really I just need a box to do the conversion, and I can run the 30 horsepower motor that I have to run the machine as a
Is
rotary.
your is your machine 240?
No, it's three phase.
Right, but the voltage going in, is it going to be 220, 208, 240 for the machine?
It should be, I don't know, 220, I think, is what it's listed on the data tag.
Yeah,
So
so you'll probably need, which is the same thing I gotta get. I already bought my phase converter. Ended up buying a 30 horsepower, which is currently over spec for
mhm.
my needs, but it gives me the opportunity to grow into it. Um, Better have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But
Yeah,
I need to buck down the voltage going in because the voltage at the house is 240 and my machine is 220 plus minus 10%. So that would put me at the upper range of that machine, and
yeah,
a
you're in the upper
little,
range.
any little, change in that voltage, it'll just not be good for the machine. I've
Mhm.
also, my customer, he has a shop in his house and he has a Kitamura with a 70 horsepower rotary. It's a freaking
Mhm.
beast. But he also has a transformer. So the way how he explained it to me is that the actual power going into the machine is clean. There's no spikes or any weird power going into the machine because it gets cleaned out through the transformer. So that might be another thing to look
Mhm.
into.
Yeah.
It's another option for finding work is going to shops. I'm currently in the process of figuring out like custom fixtures. So I do a lot of custom fixture work for myself with machining 3D prints and everything. So offering that service to other shops where if they're backed up and they don't have a machine available to do simple fixtures or whatever, that might be a good option as well. But yeah, just going out and finding weird solutions for people is probably the best option.
Uh, I really want to focus on products like Harrison was saying, and I want to try to mix in a little shop work at the same time, just for learning.
Yeah, I need the job shop work to fund my product endeavors.
Yeah, I didn't say this earlier, but with this 2 weeks that I'm taking off, I am going to do some kind of product exploration in those 2 weeks. That's one of my goals.
Yeah, that a few weeks back I shared an axe that I made a second one, 'cause I'm actually better at machining. And I actually have had customers come in and be like, "Oh my God, can you make me one of these?" So I might have accidentally gone into product. I don't really want to with that product, but it's kind of cool. Like you make something really really nice, really awesome. People start going like, "Hey, I have an idea. Can you make that for me?" So I'm accidentally getting into product.
I have an idea for you guys. Make a lighter and more affordable work holding. I'd be all in on that.
We were just doing some generative design EDM work holding today, so we're pretty good topic.
So where are you guys with fixture plates? Where do you find the benefit? Do you think it's not really needed? I guess it could be based on the work getting done, but in regards to shop work, right? It's my primary focus. So things will probably be getting taken on and off the table consistently.
It is fixture plates are amazing, and I need to use them more.
Yeah, I'm about to put a
This is what
Saunders
it comes
plate
down
on
to.
my 1500. It's been sitting there waiting for me, waiting to finish the hard milling job because I didn't want to tear that setup down. But I'm putting one on there. You don't need them; they're not mandatory. There's a couple things that are really really nice about them. One, and I've kind of gotten myself into the situation where just all of my fixtures right now are fixture plate based. They're all Saunders based. So like when I got the new machine and it just had the table, I didn't have any way of mounting the 2 dozen fixtures that I already have. So that's kind of a self-perpetuating problem. But also they protect your table, which is nice if you ever plan on reselling your machine. It keeps it looking really nice and fresh. And then for just doing weird stuff, like it's hard to beat Modvices in terms of flexibility. They have lots of flaws, But if you need to do weird stuff, throwing some mod vices on there, or even just strap clamping it down with a like to the fixture plate, it's hard to beat. So I would say at a minimum, you either need a fixture plate or a 0 point of some kind. You definitely don't need both, but one or the other.
Yeah, and if your machine you got enough Z travel, then there's no reason not to use it.
Well, except
Yeah,
that they're
and if you have a
expensive.
0 point, if you got a 0 point, you just get a small fixture plate that you can throw on top for those weird parts. That's what I need. I need to get 0 points down on everything, and then I would like to get a big fixture plate that I can put on and off for those weird parts that come up. Because having one of those, that is the one thing I miss from my Tormach days, is the odd parts that show up, and having that fixture plate and being able to bolt down basically anything to it. Its flexibility was unparalleled.
I had a question about the mini vice from Saunders there, the mod vice. What are you guys' actual general thoughts? I'm looking at possibly machining a pyramid for the DMU, and so I have like 3 workstations or 4 or whatever. And I was looking at doing the Saunders mod vice. I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts if that would actually work out well or not.
It's great for doing, like, it's great in terms of flexibility. It's fine for just holding blocks. Like, it's fine for soft jaws. It's fine for a lot of things, but its strength is that you can't use it like a regular vice. You can use it for soft jaws. You can use it for big plate stuff. You can use it for small stuff. Like, its flexibility is the value, not its viciness. If I was doing a pyramid feature and I just went in something cheap and easy, I would go with like the Chinese import vices like I have on my office mill, the Zin Dian vices in Dine. They're cheap. They're
Yeah, I
small.
looked at those. Yeah. Yeah, I was just
When
like
I
looking at.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say when I had my Tormach, I had the 5-inch vise, and then I had a whole bunch of mod vices. The 5-inch Tormach standard vise was the one that I defaulted to unless I ran into a situation where the mod vices with their unique abilities made sense.
Gotcha. I was looking at largely for the soft jaws. A lot of the parts I make are so small that machining a soft jaw for a 5-inch vise is silly. So I'm just looking at from just a cost savings on the soft jaw side of things.
They have a soft jaw version of that Chinese self-centering vice.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, same body and everything, just different jaws. The only catch is you bolt down the jaws from the top, and so you have to kind of make the jaws thick so you don't machine into your screws. But I was actually,
Yeah,
in
that's what I
terms
have for
of
the shunt now. So
yeah, in terms of low-hanging products, like low-hanging fruit for products, I was just gonna make and sell those soft jaws. I probably wouldn't make a bunch of money off them, but like it'd be something that I could knock out pretty quickly in batches on the 1500 and eventually move to automation.
yeah, I think Saunders has them for like $17, $18. So yeah, you could probably make some pretty good money on it.
Yeah, not for the mod vice, but for the Chinese vices.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but I had made a adapter plate similar to like the one you made, AJ, for those Chinese vices. And that was the first one I made was for the 440. So the 440 of travel, you can basically almost run your spindle nose with no tool holder onto the table.
Mm-hmm.
The complete opposite on the robo drill, where the spindle nose stays about 6 inches uh, away from the table. So for the robo drill, I had to make a revised version to where it's a lot higher for those Chinese vices. I have yet to try it, but I was actually thinking about selling those. Now we're talking about job shop versus going bring a product to market. The issue, not necessarily an issue for me, or it is having the capital to be able to basically gamble that money because first you gotta market it, which marketing has a cost. Organic marketing sometimes for some people works, not for everybody, in my opinion. And right now I'm just trying to get paid. So job shop is the route for me. And then once I have enough money to then not have to worry about making, next month's payments, then sure.
So with the shop stuff, I know I have a lot of companies that are coming to me for doing, some pretty straightforward parts and then some crazy parts. But the one thing they're holding back on is like ITAR and CMMC compliance stuff. So the other side of that is like a vast like ocean of parts. But a lot of these companies have kind of, you know, pigeonholed themselves in those ITAR stuff. So if you're looking at, if you're starting up, I'm not sure exactly how difficult it would be to do ITAR when you're starting a company. We're going through it now, and it's kind of a bit of a mess. But it might be an option to look into and start specializing in like ITAR parts. I would imagine too if you're doing, you're the only employee, security stuff tends to be a little bit easier.
I will say one common thing I've heard from almost anyone who started a successful business is it only takes like one good customer to kind of change your whole perspective and how and your success and your story. And that's how it was for us, and that's how it is for a lot of people. And thankfully, it sounds like Xometry kind of fills that void for a lot of people nowadays, which is nice because that's like the easy customer to get. Um, but whenever you build those relationships with other people in the industry and you get that one good customer, it'll change your whole perspective on uh, how your business is doing and how well it can grow. Especially whenever you start to build a relationship and a reputation through that business, and it starts to spread to other companies in the area. That's when it'll really start to take off.
Yeah, I've also found a little bit of luck too with experimenting with materials. So like, you know, an Inconel is a nightmare to do, but like it now makes me a better machinist. Now I can actually offer Inconel to customers. And then through a different chain, we actually got a customer that wants me to machine in platinum. And so that's going to be a wild project. They want me to do 40 micron features on a platinum part. And so, yeah, just not being afraid to try to do different materials. There's a video going around social media of a bunch of machinists asking like, what's the worst material, and they all like stainless. And I was like, you haven't seen anything. Like I love stainless. So it's one of those things of like, if you're just starting out, everyone does aluminum, but maybe dip a little bit of copper in there, a little bit of brass, a little bit of everything. So that way, your customers, when they start talking to you about materials, you go, oh yeah, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. It helps out quite a bit.
Was there anyone else that had those hobby just getting started? That question that AJ had earlier on. I know there was someone that said that they were in the middle of something, but they were going to come back. Did we miss that, or what was that?
That was me. That was more related to the way back at this point. Kind of related to the education and it was the question about the QR codes. And in my school, actually, they had in our like intro to machining class, they had these videos at every machine. And way back, our school was part of that Haas H Tech program, so we have a bunch of Haas machines, and it's definitely a way to get people going, but it's really not a great way to let it stick. To your point, 5X Medic, like they're gonna watch these videos, they're gonna follow it one to one, and then they don't learn you don't really get the muscle memory. You get the like follow and response kind of action down. But what really did it for me and other people at my school that kind of ran with it was having good projects. So like for me, I ran our Formula SAE team and did all our machining and welding for 3 years. And when you have to build, cars from scratch, you really learn the process and what makes a good design and everything. And it's having something that you really want to do and that you need to do is what gets you the the yield. Like that's what gets you the actual knowledge and experience. So for you, if you can find a way to give your students something, it's kind of tricky, but they kind of have to want the end goal. Yeah, those the bleed off of. But anyway, yeah, that was kind of just a comment on that.
Yeah, getting if I have a class of 30, I might have one or two people that are interested in machining. So yeah, a lot of my job is bringing in space parts and military parts and all these crazy parts, so that when they can see the end goal, and actually say like, oh, I machined something to a thou tolerance or whatever. It's kind of adds fuel for them, but the rest of them just want to be designers or 3D printers. So it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
I have a question. I know that at least AJ and Harrison, you guys are one or two person shops. Um, but in regards to standardizing controllers on your machines, what are your thoughts on it? Because I'm personally having, I guess, an issue where the rest of the shop has the same type of software controller versus my main two machines are old school FANUC controlled, and nobody wants to learn them or touch them. And then now, double-edged sword, I guess, to where I'm the only one that runs them, but then I feel like I can't really take any days off because I'm the only one that runs them.
Be, being one man or two man show, personally, I want to get as much exposure to all the different types of machines, but that's just because I like to learn things. I want to try Siemens. I want to try Heidenheim. I've tried FANUC now. I've done Haas. I've had a little bit of experience with maze control through another shop. And they all have pros and cons. And if you're using a CAD CAM package, I feel like your ability to use all those different machines is not limited in any way because programming wise, it's kind of agnostic of what machine you're going to throw it on. It's the post processor that takes care of all that. But some controllers have things that are good and some controllers have things that are bad. And just having exposure to all of them, I personally enjoy, but that's not probably everyone. I definitely think if you're in if you have a bunch of employees, asking them to be as familiar with all the different controllers is definitely going to be a problem. And so having the same controller for all your machines will make it much easier for you to move employees around as you grow.
Yeah, I would agree a little bit. I spent probably 2 years running Haas's, and was really good at running Haas. And then I had to switch over to the Siemens. And now that I've had to specialize in that Siemens, I can't run a Haas to save my life. And it's actually it's pretty sad actually. But yeah, I can program it and I can send it to the operator and he can actually take care of it. But it's one of those things where if you're trying to like same as Harrison, like I love controllers. I love seeing all the different kinds out there. But if you're doing really high end stuff, you have to focus on that one controller and get really good at that one controller. And then if you have employees, uh, I can't imagine having 10 different people coming to me and saying, "Hey, I have 10 different problems and 10 different controllers." Like that would be chaos. So if there's a definitely from a enthusiast side of things, I would love to use every controller they make. But from an actual practical, I gotta focus on something. I gotta stick with the one thing.
It might throw the programmer sometimes for a loop because I think AJ, aren't you doing something with your tool libraries to now with the Tormach with the Path Pilot controller, having more tools that you can program for? Doesn't that make your workflow change a little bit?
Yes and no. It's basically that I'm using the luxury of PathPilot of having 1,000 tool offsets now. The same workflow I was using, which was basically all of my tools were T99 until they were loaded into the machine. Like that method would work just fine on the Tormach, but because I have those extra offsets and the ability to keep tools set offline without having to retype in the information every time, like, I don't know. I can make an argument for having multiple controllers or staying standardized. I think in a small shop, it doesn't really matter. I think it matters when you start to have a lot of people, but I would still have a hard time. Like if I have machine A and machine B is the right choice for me, I wouldn't buy another machine A just because it had the same controller as machine B. I think I would focus on the iron over the controller. But that equation would change, I think, if you had 100 people or whatever.
Yeah, and for 5-axis medic, what I would ask you is, I've used the 5-axis side of Haas, but once you get into Siemens and Heidenheim, aren't they just a lot more powerful for that 5-axis stuff?
Yeah, definitely. And like the smoothing on the Siemens control is wild. I posted some photos of some of the surface finishes I was getting, and I don't know what I'm doing. So the machine definitely does a great job. One thing I'll say too about the having the tool offsets that go beyond what your tool carriage can handle, we actually use it because we are a company inside of a school. We actually use those further back offsets as our company tools, so it doesn't mess with the class. And when the professor first found out about that, he freaked out, thinking like, "Oh my God, it's going to mess up all this stuff." But so when we look at a tool library on the control of like 1,000, we'll do the last 100, and then that way when the students are scrolling through the tool offsets, they really have to get to the point where they actually see that. Um, but yeah, so that when it comes to the higher end controllers, there's still quite a bit of stuff I have to hand program, or I call it hand programming, but that I have to like insert into it afterwards. But for the most part, yeah, the machines take care of it.
Well, I need to get going here. You guys are welcome to stay around and chat after I'm gone. It'll just be off the recording. Patreon. As everybody here knows, we have a Patreon. By joining our Patreon, you get access to things like early access to all of our episodes and occasional live stream chats. So if you guys are interested in that, there's a link down in the description probably, or patreon.com/tapsandpatience. We kind of didn't do a Q&A for like the third week in a row, but we do occasionally do Q&As on the Patreon, and that is actually open to everybody, whether they are a paid member or a free member. So if you want to join us for free just to participate in the Q&A, you are absolutely welcome. As the name implies, being free does not cost anything. Harrison, would you like to do the traditional outro, since we don't have music to cue you with tonight?
Yeah, by traditional outro, do you mean fumble and fall on my face? Then yes.
Yeah, like my intro.
Well, guys, literally, thanks for hanging out with us. Whether you're watching this recording or here with us live right now, we appreciate you guys hanging out. I'm not going to try to do everyone that's here because I will fumble horribly through that. So I'm just say everyone here plus AJ and me. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll catch you guys next time. So yeah, that's my horrible outro.
Bye. Oh man, except I muted instead of stopping the recording.